Howdy, my name is Dylan Bone. Today we're going to be talking about issues that we as a society face in the age of automation. Now, first, progress is by definition inexorable and irrepressible. With every technological advancement we've made as a human civilization, we've had to ask inescapable questions of ethics and integration. Today we face issues on the cusp of the age of automation. The current revolution taking place has to do with artificial intelligence, now specifically coming about from innovations that we've made in the field of AI concerning machine learning and neural networks. And now neural networks are basically infant artificial brains. And that should tell you something about how powerful these algorithms are getting to be and why they threaten our jobs. Now, we can ask questions from unemployment and economic unrest to ethical dilemmas and the search for meaning. AI is a widely expansive field. But as for now, we're going to go to the stakeholders, those that have immediate concerns over these innovations. Society has exchanged many blue-collar workers for automated machines. And if we don't work to rectify this issue, white collars will soon join them, disgruntled and destitute. But don't take my word for it. Let's go look at the first stakeholders. Automation pits workers against each other, and we're going to first talk about those that are in favor of automation. I'm going to be first talking about an LA Times article that tells the story between two differing parties. Now, one would be unionized dock workers, and the other would be truckers. Now, the truckers have to go to the dock to pick up their shipments, and so sometimes they have to wait for the dock workers to go get those shipments on these cranes. At this specific dock, the unionized workers have grown slow, according to the truckers, sometimes taking hours upon hours just to go get one shipment. And so these truckers are in favor of automation specifically because of their hatred for the dock workers and how slow and rude they've apparently become. These robots would apparently shorten the wait time. Now, the LA article says, quote, that these truckers would be paid by the load, so they applaud the arrival of more waterfront robots, which promise to speed turnaround times at a port complex that handles 1/3 of the nation's goods, end quote. Now, the fact that the truckers are in favor of automation is ironic, considering that all 3.5 million truck drivers, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, that take up the American workforce are under threat of automation themselves in regards to self-driving cars and trucks. But these truckers in this article are not necessarily focused on truck driving as a whole industry. They're focused more on getting those 2-3 hour wait times down to 30 minutes, which is exactly what the AI processes promise to do. In another scenario of pro-automation, a New York Times article talks about how CEOs and big executives are in favor of automation. Now, they're not in favor of automation publicly because that means people lose their jobs, which happens to be very unpopular in the public. So the New York Times article begins by refuting the idea that you would find any quotes from CEOs publicly praising automation. But behind closed doors, they demur and say, if they don't automate away jobs quickly, their competitors will. And that was a quote from the New York Times article. They have conflicting interests. They are beholden by shareholders and stockholders that want profits to rise. And sometimes that means getting rid of human workers in favor of more efficient means. Now, not everyone is on the same page. The dock workers, back to the LA Times article, they're worried, and they're worried because, quote, over the next 3 years, robots will replace 200 existing cranes and trucks operated by some 500 unionized dock workers, end quote. And so when these dock workers heard about it, they went and protested, and they went and put on demonstrations so they could earn the sympathy of the public and hopefully get public policy makers to intervene. Now, unfortunately for them, in their union contracts, they didn't necessarily ban automation. In fact, it specifically allows for that. So they're in a considerable plight because they're about to lose their jobs to automation. Of course, they don't like the robots. Another concerned party would be the youth. And now this was found in an article by The Guardian, which cites a poll from the Future Foundation, which says that, quote, around 40% of young people in the world are concerned that their jobs will be automated away within 10 years. So the youth is a stakeholder, and they're a bigger stakeholder than any other, because you think about older generations, they're on their way to retirement. Middle generations aren't necessarily focused on something that could happen 20 years down the road. When it comes to anybody under the age of 30, they're either worried, though, about getting a job and a career or raising a family. So they're definitely worried about this. And so in the Guardian article, it says, quote, young people in the UK and other developed countries are much more concerned about the level of their technological skills than their counterparts in emerging economies. This brings me to my final point. We are stakeholders as well. We can't afford to view this as some far-off issue. In a CNBC article, they cite a McKinsey study that estimated, quote, 1/3 of American workers could be displaced by 2030. Even if we manage to keep our own jobs, this could lead to a different kind of recession or economic crisis. And the National Bureau of Economic Research says, quote, this displacement effect implies that increases in output per worker arising from automation will not result in a proportional expansion of the demand for labor. Now, in simple terms, it means jobs are lost and the demand for human labor does not return. And the National Bureau of Economic Research is trusted because it is a peer-reviewed journal. Now, AI, in today's terms, can learn from its environment, learn like an infant, theorize like a thinker, rationalize like an adult. It can do this all quicker than a human can. That is why there should be concern about its rise. It is poised to join the workforce, and there's only so much room. Due to the conflict of these stories and stakeholders, automation is undoubtedly a troubling issue. But in conclusion, don't change careers. Jobs will not go away immediately, even if they begin to fade. Right now, high-skilled workers, which we go to a university, we're overall safe. But jobs are always in the process of being automated, and we should anticipate that job retraining will be the norm when we join the workforce. Blue collars have already lost many jobs because of it. White collars are next. If we do not focus on this issue with seriousness, the seriousness that it deserves, stakeholders have shown that many will lose their job, and an increasingly unsettled society will begin to grumble. Thank you. Now, here are my notes that I took for this. We have the introduction, we have the first main point, we have the second main point, the third main point, and we have our conclusion. Thank you.